Good morning, everybody. You can hear me okay, right?
How you doing?
I am so excited today to be here with you to talk about first-line workers and how we're enabling them in their workplace. And if you attended, yes. Oh, is it not? That's a lot better, right? Thank you. You're fine. Make sure that's good. You might recognize me because, I might just hold this. You might recognize me because I helped to facilitate Lori Wright's session, where I took on the persona of a first-line worker in a grocery retailer, where I used Teams to help manage a product recall. And so I'm super excited to tell you more about how you can enable your first-line workforce with some of the capabilities that are within Teams. And my counterpart over there, Rich Halbert, will be joining me on stage a little later. And so Microsoft's mission is to empower every person in every organization on the planet to achieve more. And it's awesome to think about how that affects you as a customer. From the boardroom to the first line, everybody should have the technology that they need to get their jobs done. And so your first line workforce is first with customers, first with your products and operations, and first to represent your brand. And I'll share a little anecdote about myself. You know, I'm from New York. In true New York fashion, I work 2 jobs. I work full-time 9 to 5, in the evening 6 to 10 in a large beauty retailer. And I remember those days, and this is not too long ago, as I was saving up money to get my master's. And in those environments, they're very dynamic. They're changing day to day. Every minute means money. And when I thought about schedule management capabilities and what I had to do in case I needed to swap a shift, sometimes I had to show up in store to get my schedule updated, or sometimes I felt disconnected from the company, which leads me to talk more about some of the challenges that first-time workers face in their environments. They're in places or constantly working around the clock or need reminders of their shifts. They're using obsolete technology and tools currently to get their jobs done. And when I think back to my experience, oftentimes I did feel disconnected from the company. One, it just took a very long time to cascade information down from top to bottom. But 2, I would have really loved to feel more connected to their vision. And with Microsoft Teams, you'll be able to do that. And so when we think about why it's important to empower your first-line workers, there's tons of data that points in the direction of why this is going to be awesome for you. 81% of executives agree that sharing information for first-line workers really helps to boost competitiveness. But honestly, the competing stat to this is that 34% actually don't do it and have acknowledged that they don't actually do that to become more competitive. 82% of executives see higher levels of satisfaction amongst employees. So in many industries, I recognize that turnover can be a true problem. However, if you think about enabling your first-line workforce with technology, this could be something that really helps them feel more connected to your vision and overall helping to drive your business value. Customer satisfaction increases when you have employees on the first line that are representing your brand, meeting and talking to the customers that enter and interface with you, with your products and operations. And overall, when you help to enable your employees on the first line, you can see huge impact in terms of the way your company performs. And so we're really excited again to showcase how Microsoft Teams is evolving to meet the needs of all workers. And Teams does that in 4 key ways. Communication, collaboration. Teams is customizable and extendable. And additionally, the confidence around security and compliance. And so as you can see here, we've posted in this mobile setting, because first-line workers are mostly on their mobile devices, the opportunity to not only have solutions that help with schedule management and getting information cascaded from the top down, but they also have at their fingertips the opportunity to use communication experiences within Teams, which includes chat, messages, calls, and meetings. Additionally, in certain environments, there are use cases where first-line workers collaborate. Say you're working on a document that helps with customer service or customer support. They have access to that all through Microsoft Teams and the full suite of Office 365. And then thinking about how Teams is customizable and extensible. You know, we announced most recently these new capabilities that are going to help from a schedule management perspective and keeping first-line workers on task. but there's a plethora of different apps that you can include in your experience. And so I'm going to show you this quick video on how Microsoft Teams is evolving.
New discoveries are made.
Or I thought I was. 1 second. I need some help with audio. I'm going to try that again.
New discoveries are made. New milestones are reached. And businesses thrive. People are empowered to achieve more.
1 second. New discoveries are made. New milestones have been reached. I kind of know the script, but then again, I got it down. It's okay.
I see it back there too, so I think there's something, they were just calling from the back.
Well, worst case, we'll just save the video for the end. It'll be the cherry on top of this sundae. So I'll invite my colleague Rich up on stage to demo some of these awesome capabilities I was speaking to.
Okay, thank you, Kira. We'll try to make up for the video at the end, save that. So Rich Halbert, I'm a customer PM on the Teams team, and I focus on our first-line customer engagements, as well as have a focus in retail as well. I'm going to walk you through what we've done within Teams and what will be available to you in GA in November, so just a few weeks away. And we'll start with the desktop experience here. And we'll start with Shifts. So Shifts is one of the capabilities we're bringing to Teams in November, and this is part of our move of bringing the StaffHub capability into Teams, which we announced a couple days ago. And just to get you a little familiar with the interface here, I use retail examples because I think everyone in this room probably shops, so they get to know retail pretty well firsthand. And we'll look at the team. Teams are typically divided up into different roles, so you see the different roles within this store and the different people in those roles. And then we have different shift types. In this case, within our retailer, we have opening shifts, which are 8 to 5, closing shifts from 12 to 9, and then a swing shift from 10 to 7. That's a fairly typical kind of retail experience. We can change things because we noticed that about 70% of the customers that we talk to are still using Excel for their scheduling. So Excel is a really popular tool. And they'll use Excel, they'll do the scheduling there, they'll print it out, put it on the break room wall, and that's how most of these first-line workers get their schedules today. And so the behavior is very similar here to Excel. So if I copy a shift, and then Control-C and Control-V, it acts just like Excel. I can select a range and do the same thing. And you'll see that I can come in and say, well, maybe on this shift, someone has to leave early, so I mark that and make it a different color and make what we call a shift note that they're leaving early. And so when I say that, you'll see that we put a little asterisk here, and that just shows you that it hasn't been shared out yet. we allow you to work in this draft mode and make all your changes, and then once you decide that you're going to share that out, you can with the team, and you can choose to share that changes out to the entire team or just those who are impacted. So in this case, we'll just share that out for that person whose change we made. We also have a concept called day notes, and these are notes that go down to everyone who's working that day. And they're usually used for a couple of things. One is to sort of paint the picture of the day for the employees, like what they can expect. Here in this case, we kind of put our goals based off of our forecasts or give some specific tasks to be aware of that day. And so those are your day notes. So the manager can work in this view, and it's fairly intuitive. I work with managers all the time, and we just sit down and start building a schedule. You know, that's fairly easy to do. We have different views. So most people are working in a week view when I watch them, but you can also look at the month view and see, you know, how the month is shaking out. You can go forward and see that, like in this case, I've published out to the 7th, and then I have some other changes I need to make to get the next schedule out. So I can go back to the week view. And we're always trying to reduce friction wherever possible. Friction for the manager, friction for IT, friction for the first-line worker. So if I move forward here and look at, you know, just see if I have no schedule there, and go to copy the schedule forward, I can take the previous week and move that forward and use that as a starting point for the following week to create that schedule. So a lot of times, and we give some options here, like I usually won't carry forward time off or shift notes because those typically don't reflect the next week. And then I can copy that over. And that just simplifies sort of the schedule creation process for the manager. There are a couple other views too that are useful. For example, I can show it on a shift basis to just see how many people I have working in a specific shift. I can also ungroup it to see the total number of employees in the store for that shift as well. So there's just a few different ways, you know, you can slice and dice. The managers typically have a very good view of what they need within the store. And so these are, again, ways to help them slice and dice in order to see, you know, what's happening in the store. And let me go back to that view. So the beauty of, you know, working in teams is that this is actually, you know, yet another application within Teams. So we look at like meetings, chats, calling, those are applications within Teams. And so when you come down here and if you go to the store, once this GAs and you come up here and you type shifts, you're going to go right to this application. Now I've already installed it and I'm using it here, but this is how you'll add it into your experience, you know, once you get it. And the other thing is that because we're in Teams, sort of different than the past. So in the past, you always had to be using scheduling in order to use StaffHub. And so that became a little bit of a limiting factor because a lot of first-line challenges are in communications, not just scheduling. So the beauty of this is that now that we are a native app right within Teams, you still carry forward all of the great communications capabilities within Teams. And then as a manager in particular, you can be doing those communications on any device. It can be on your laptop, on a tablet you're walking around, you know, it can be at home. So you have all these places you can connect in and communicate from. Now I'm going to switch over to, let me just switch that there, and switch over to mobile. Come on. So when we talk about the new capabilities in Teams, there's two experiences that we're bringing forward in November. One is scheduling and what we now call shifts, and the other experience is home, and that's this experience here. The idea behind home is to be a contextual experience to bring together all the things a first-line worker would need when they go into the application. So this is their default landing space when they come into the app. Now this is an experience, because now that we're a part of Teams, all of the experiences that we build, we want to be native Teams experiences and usable for any user of Teams. We'll start with the home experience being focused on first-line workers first, but there's a lot of engineering work going into home to make that a desktop experience, a web experience, and in the native Teams app as well. So in this experience, like you can see here, I've actually clocked into my shift. So I've been on shift now for 3 hours, 9 minutes. Time and attendance is sort of a logical extension to the scheduling piece. And so I usually say when I'm doing a demo, it's like taking a break. So we'll actually go into a break right now. And this is just a simple experience for the end user, to do their time and attendance. This is an optional feature, so you go into the manager settings and actually turn this on. And you do have the option also to use geofencing to capture GPS data when they clock in or clock out, so you know that they were on site when they do. And then you also see the information related to my shift. So there are those day notes that I talked about. And I can go into my shift and see what's going on. I can go there in the upper right and see all of the people who are working in the store that day. This is one of the more popular features for the first-line workers. They like to know, who's going to be there when they get into the store. And then we've got it nicely divided up into roles. And you'll end up in situations where, say, a customer stops you in the store and asks you a question, and you may not have the answer to it. Well, you can go on and say, oh, who's working in customer service? I'm going to find out, what's going on. So I can go into Christy and then go right into a chat experience with Christy and say, do you know anything about, the recent recall? So being able to connect by role, by time, by shift, and who's working is really an important way of connecting those who are at the store at this time and can answer those questions. Just like a similar example is here on the home screen, we show you everyone who's working right now. So in a typical retail store, if you have 20, 25 workers in the store, you probably have 50, 60, 70 total employees to the store who, 40, 50 of them aren't even working that day. So being able to communicate to everyone that's on shift is a really important capability. And this is something we're going to keep bringing into the experience so that you can take full advantage of the knowledge that we have about the shift. So, and if you think about other industries, if you take healthcare, for example, knowing everyone who's working in the maternity ward right now is a really important piece of data. It might be floor 4 north. And because these people change all the time. And so being able to connect them all because you know that they're all there at that time is really important. Or if you're an airline and you have a crew that's on a particular flight, that's a very dynamic team. That team, as soon as that flight lands, is completely different on the next flight. So all of this knowledge that we have around the schedule and who's together is really important to connect them. And communications is really at the foundation of that. But it's the combination of the communications and the schedule coming together that is really, really valuable. And so like here we have this example of being able to reach everyone in the store right now. And rather than go on the intercom, you could say something like, spill on aisle 4. And so quickly being able to get that information out to everyone, super, super important. So then the other thing we'll go into is the scheduling from the first-line worker's point of view. Here we can see, my shifts. And let's say, for example, next Thursday, the 3rd, maybe I realize I have a doctor's appointment that morning, and so I want to go swap my shift with the closing manager, because I'm typically the opening manager. And so I can go down to October 3rd and then find Adele who's the closing manager, and say, I have a doctor's appointment, and see if I can swap my shift with Adele. And what this does is we put this workflow behind this. We wait for Adele to respond. If she says yes, then it goes to the manager for final approval, and then the schedule change is made. The beauty of this is because everyone is connected, and I have this information of who's working when, the type of role, I can do that myself and really drive this process. This is typically, when I'm out with customers, the number one reason I hear that employees go to consumer-based tools to connect with each other. You know, like a WhatsApp or Messenger or some other application, Facebook. Because for the first-time worker, swapping a shift is one of the more stressful things that they have to do. And so they're going to figure out how to solve this problem. You know, if your child is sick at dinner and you're not going to make it to work tomorrow because they're not going to go to school, that's a very stressful situation. And so you're going to find a way to solve that problem and solve it very quickly. And so they'll go create this WhatsApp group so that they're all connected, and then they'll go to start chatting with each other and figure out, hey, who can cover this shift for me? Well, then that group gets formed, and now they're talking to each other. And I use the example of, like, let's say it was let's pick one, like a PetSmart. And so now these PetSmart first-line workers are all talking to each other, they're swapping shifts, they're talking about the company. Well, when you have 67% turnover of first-line workers in retail, the likelihood that some of these are going to be working at Petco, soon, is very high. And so then they go to Petco, and they start working at Petco. Well, they're still in the PetSmart WhatsApp group. And all of a sudden you see this lack of control that IT has over information that's flowing, from one company to the other. What we've seen is that when we come in with tools like this, the usage of those consumer tools drops dramatically because they have all the information they need to solve the most critical problems that they're having. And so swapping a shift is really a good example of that. The other thing to show is, which I could have shown also on the manager experience, is the concept of open shifts. And open shifts has become a very, very critical feature for us and really for many industries. And some will call it like the Uberization of scheduling. The idea behind open shifts is if I have some sense of capacity of what I need in the store, but I only have, maybe I need 5 cashiers, but I only have 2 who I can assign the shift to. I can take those other 3 and publish those out to the broader team, and then someone can go take that shift. So if I go into open shifts, I can see the open shifts available to me, and I can also see where there's a conflict with the shift I already have. And so let's take, maybe I don't mind working Saturday morning. Not true, but for demo, it's okay. And I go request this. Well, this request flow is just like very similar to the swap a shift request. And I am a manager, so I can self-approve this. It just helps with demos. So I can go through and say, yeah, sure, you can have that shift. And now when I go to my schedule, you'll see that I'm working on Saturday from 8 to 5. I have some customers that only do open shifts. They create no schedule with people's names attached to it. And all they do is they just line up all the shifts and let people come and take their schedule. And that's kind of that Uber model. You can just wake up and say, I'm going to work the next 2 hours. Let's go. So that flexibility is something that we're seeing in the workforce. And in a lot of these high turnover industries, that becomes a really important feature. The last one on the request side would be time off. That's your kind of classic, again, high repetition, very frequent, happens all the time. And so you can come and say, let's see, go to October. I'm actually going to Hawaii this week. So let's just take that whole thing off, and send that off. So making these high frequency things very, very easy and connecting them, very important first line scenarios. So then I have something to look forward to. Vacation from October 22nd to the 31st. Fantastic. So then the last thing I'm going to show is some of the new features that are coming very, very soon. Let's use Alex. Around, let me do this. Actually, I'll keep it like this. And which is around, we just had, incoming feature is around image annotation. In fact, I'll use a thing with the look at all, whoops, all the customers. And so, and then I can come and I can take a photo. Look at that. And so now we have photo annotation, and that is really important. Like, I'll pick on you guys. Sorry, you sat there, not me. And we'll say customers. And so being able to now annotate the images within Teams. So these are features that will be in Teams generally, but I like them a lot more in the first line scenario, because what happens is to have people use these tools confidently, because they're so used to consumer tools, we really need these kind of, more consumer-oriented features. And a lot of the communications and kind of tasking across the first line space ends up being around images. So just something as simple as this and being able to annotate that image is really, really important. Another one that's one that we just are in the process of adding, it's going through our ring process, so you will see it very soon, is sending location. Now, right now, we're doing that with GPS data and what we know of where the phone is. In the future, I hope we start to key off of beacons, or if you're a large department store, being able to tell you exactly what department within the store. There's all sorts of possibilities here. Field service scenarios, people who are out working on, in maintenance crews and that type of thing, these can become really, really important. I didn't send my, there we go. This fabulous picture of those fabulous customers. So these types of things are becoming, more and more critical, and we're rapidly closing the gap against the consumer tools. And that is it, because I wanted to have plenty of time for questions from you all. And if you want more on the product, I'm happy to do that too, so I'll just sort of keep this open. And maybe Kira, you want to join us, join me on stage here. So any questions from you all? You want to get, well, I'll repeat it since you're ready.
So the navigation bar that you have in the bottom,
Yep.
it looks kind of different than what you see in Teams.
Yep.
So how do the phones review determine which navigation bar you get?
Great question. So the question was, when you look at the navigation on the bottom here, so what we would call our pinned apps on the bottom of the screen, they are different than what you get in Teams today. And so you, as an admin, will have the ability, what's happening, you're going to start seeing Teams more and more as a platform and less as a specific app that you're used to, because we're adding all these capabilities. So if you think about it, we're adding a home app, we're adding shifts, we have calling, meetings, and other things coming too, so that you're going to construct that experience in the back end for that work. And we even have templates now that we announced this week as well. So you're going to see more and more of the back end capabilities such that you can create templates around a specific set of users to give them a certain experience. And so in this case, this is the first line experience, and this is sort of how we're presenting that. The beauty of this is there's still one app in the App Store called Teams, and then we use that user data that you set up in the background to give them the app that is for them. This is an area that we will definitely be hearing feedback on and always have to be adding capabilities here, because it's really, really an important part of your control over the front end experience.
Oh, and I just want to, this
there
is
you go.
not
You're on.
working.
You're
So
on.
in order to surface the home and these other capabilities for mobile, you'll actually customize as the end user the navigation bar. And so again, home and shifts is going to be available to all Teams users. However, in knowledge worker instances, you're not going to use shifts, right? And so what you would do is customize your navigation bar from the hamburger menu. And maybe I can show you this. I don't know if it's in your builds. From here? And right here, you would move up home and shift so that it shows as part of your navigation bar. and then move down anything that you wouldn't need. So for quick access, you're pinning them to the navigation bar on mobile. And the same way Rich
Yeah.
showed you on desktop and web, you would go to the App Store and download it so it shows up on those.
And to add to that, I think that the important thing is you have control. There's basically three levels of control that you'll be getting. One is the private app store. So Kira showed the slide with the 4 phones. The private app store is a super critical feature because that opens the door to not just all of the apps that we're creating at Microsoft, but other third-party line of business applications or your own line of business applications. And through the private app store, you can wall in what is available to your users. So that's kind of control point number 1. Control point number 2 is what are the default apps that you bring down when they get into the experience? So like here, because I'm still on like classic Teams here. I'm just showing you the first line experience. I have the other apps that came down with Teams, and like Kira said, I went in and customized. But then the third level is going to be defining what those pinned apps are. And then whether or not they do have the ability to customize that or not, that'll be kind of up to you. But through that experience, you're going to define that. And I just see as if we move forward, when we're back here a year from now and the year after, you're going to see more and more contextual-based interface and experiences and control within the application. So even if I'm a first-line worker and I have a first-line experience, I may get to the weekend and now maybe I don't get chats. I still see my shifts, but I can't do, so I can see like this evolution of more and more control based on the factors that you want. And this is the kind of feedback I'm expecting from all of you over the next year.
You guys can come up to the mic, I think.
Yeah.
So that it's easy to know.
She
who
wins.
answered their hand.
Hold on. No, I'm just kidding.
I guess this is all running on SharePoint lists in the back end, is it? Like the data you're storing?
Yes.
Do we have access to that? The reason I ask is because we have SAP, which deals with all the shifts, but there's no really easy way for first-line workers to get that information. They're kind of told, or like you said, printed out or whatever. And if we could integrate those lists with SAP, that'd be awesome. And we could do that if we can get to the lists.
Okay, so let me give you, I'm going to give you a general answer on extensibility all up. And it, ultimately will map to what you're asking. So we really have 3 big extensibility points. Kind of extensibility, customizability. So within the schedule piece, we have an API from the past that we're moving forward into Graph API like the Teams API. So Graph gives you a lot of power and flexibility because once you're in there, you can kind of go anywhere with any data. So it's just sort of becoming a very industry standard integration point. Then we have Flow and bot framework. So Microsoft Flow for customizing the business process, which depending on what you're doing with the data could be more of a process thing than just a data integration. That's why I bring that up. And then the other would be the bot framework, where you have now end user exposable data and things that you can do, different scenarios, kind of go get a piece of data or do some query, very natural language style. And that becomes really, really powerful. So like examples of, we certainly have, there's a session this week on Kronos integration where we're going to show kind of a nice superset of all these capabilities. A data level integration to bring those shifts into the schedule experience I'm showing you here. But then there's also bots and there's also app and connectors that are happening. So that's a good example of industry leader connecting the teams and then lighting up what you need to. And certainly an SAP is a good example, a good partner who we'll continue to work with to get that same kind of out of the box integration, so you don't have to go too custom there, and they'll provide that for you. But that extensibility is important. And things like time off requests is a good example where I have customers that put a flow in there and they just auto approve time off requests. So like being able to kind of customize it in the way you want is really, really important to us. Okay, go ahead.
So I have a couple of questions. One, the navigation that you were showing where you can pin the different icons down at the bottom.
Yep.
When is that going to be released?
So this is in Teams today.
I don't have it. Is it based on license, or I was trying to do it when you were talking about it?
I think this will be available by the end of the year. And so right now you might not see it, but it will surface really soon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually, we changed the UI a little bit on how you will get there.
Yeah.
So that is coming. This is the problem when you're on the Teams team. Sometimes you don't know that you're a little ahead of the game. But yeah, that is an important thing that you'll see if you don't right now. It's coming very soon.
Okay. I had an additional question.
Yep.
Just really quick.
Go ahead.
The second thing is, so I'm part of Sony Pictures Entertainment, and we have Knowledge and Firstline Workers. So the Firstline Workers are currently using StaffHub. Are you ensuring that all features, when I got the email of it being expired October 1st?
Yep.
So are you ensuring that every feature part of StaffHub will be in shifts?
Yeah, so not in shifts, but in teams. So, here's what I'll tell you. When we GA in November with this capability, so that's going to be home and shifts.
End of October, early November.
End of October. You know, it's under promise, over deliver. Okay. So, you'll be able to have your StaffHub teams still using StaffHub and then go create new teams and add this into teams. And they'll sort of act independently from one another. It'll be about March-ish or so when we'll then send out the guidance of how to take your StaffHub team and convert them seamlessly into a Teams team. Basically, all they're going to do is one day you're going to say, go download the Teams client and use that, and they'll open that and get that experience. That's going to be probably March-ish or so. And then that'll be a very seamless transition. At that point, there will be 100% feature parity and nothing will break. And all their history and everything that they had in StaffHub will be right there. So, you know, for those teams, just keep them going. Don't worry about it. And then you'll get notified when it's time to just point them to Teams and start using Teams. Now, when you get to October next year, we're going to make you do that. All right? So we'll move you over, whoever's left at that point.
Thank you.
Related to the image capture, are you planning to do any video capture that might feed into Stream? We're a manufacturing company, so line workers with improvement ideas are recording themselves on their phones and then uploading to Stream. But
yeah, that's a great, great idea. I don't have the answer of, certainly it's within the way we think about Office 365 and using it all. So that's our natural bias. But that particular feature, I don't know what's coming. One thing that is important, though, is we do give you the ability to control where that image is. So you can set that images do not store on the phone, which, again, it can be an important first-line scenario. So you'll sort of have it in the back, and then when they leave and you turn them off, all that stuff's gone, and they don't walk with it. So.
Are the images captured and stored in the SharePoint library?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm just wondering, is groups still an important part of this security
Absolutely.
framework? Okay.
Absolutely.
So in a manufacturing process, we have different cells. A cell might be a group of its own. Okay. And then another question is like protection services type scenarios where you need to send quick alerts. Is that a feature?
So that is something you'll hear about soon.
I've got a question.
Great idea. Yes.
I'm going to ask the licensing question.
Yep.
Because I'm new to this. So we've got the Office 365 suite. Is shifts and home additional licensing costs, or is it included within?
Included within. In all licenses. So anybody that's a Teams user will have access to it. There's no additional costs. Again, you surface it based on quickly pinning it to your navigation bar, but there's no change.
And it's in all of our enterprise licenses, F1, E1, E3, E5.
Hi. What about optimization of cost of service? For example, I have an employee that has worked for 5 days straight, and if he will go into the 6th day, is entitled to add on to the salary. So when I have an open shift, I have 5 people want to take it. So I would like to be able to see which one is the cheapest to add on instead of.
Okay, so there are a few ways of handling that. So one is all of the scheduling data you can export into Excel. So that's one. So you could automate this with PowerShell or however you would like, but you can export the data and then with that user have some cost associated with them, their salary, et cetera. We do have some, what I'll just classify as custom fields related to a user where you could put salary information in there. Right now, that doesn't surface anywhere for you to like action that because as sort of a design principle, we view most of the things related around the schedule to be a part of either the manager or schedulers in their head and their sort of knowledge of the store and their people, or in a third-party workforce management system where we then integrate and expose that. So this is kind of in the middle where you like want more out of the manager than just what they can just keep juggling in their head and sort of have a data point or some integration to some system that has that salary information. And that's where, you know, some work would likely have to be done to give you exactly what you wanted. Now, there may be some flow scenarios where you could go grab a piece of data and then do something or have it sort the people by their salary. And there's probably some things we could look at customizing for you, but nothing really like out of the box to do what you're asking for.
Hi. One
Hello.
question. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I grow.
Hi. In the classic StaffHub app, it's possible to assign tasks from a manager to employees or from colleague to colleague.
Yeah.
Where do you see this feature in Teams?
Good point. Thank you, Grow. So here's what I will say about that. Coming soon. Because like I said, come by March, we're at 100% feature parity. That is a feature. I won't say when that will be a feature, but it will happen.
Good.
I'm interested in the geo-fencing technology
Yes.
and what that's built off and how you can manage that. We've got bus depots all over the country, and so we'd want a location for each.
Yes, so your team has a location. So
Yeah.
right there can be a little dependent on how you're set up.
Okay.
So like your location of people is going to have, that's going to have a certain coordinate.
Yeah.
And then when the user on their phone, so if it's a BYOD scenario and they're on their phone, they'll be told like, we're going to use location services.
Yeah.
Now, they basically have to say yes or else they can't clock in. And
Yeah.
But they're notified that we're pulling GPS off the phone because we have to. And so you'll design your team so that they're at each location.
So you need to have like a team each time you want, like if we had a bus, we'd have to have one for each bus depot and then assign a coordinate to that.
And then you'd staff to that location.
To that location.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the GPS is definitely it implies that there's a distinct physical location that matters. Yeah. And so you're going to want to design your team around that.
Yeah, it's just that we're transport, so we've got a whole route, and then there's a station at each one, but that's one route that we want multiple stops at.
Yep.
Is that possible?
So the thing is, you're gonna quickly end up into a new feature, which is fine. I love new features.
Yeah.
But so I think when we think about this time and attendance, it's the I'm not in my shower clocking in, about to drive to the store. So like that's the scenario we're trapping for.
Yeah.
So in the scenario of roving or remote people who are drivers, I talk to tons of companies around field service too, because they're routing field service engineers. So the question there is, what does it mean to clock in? you know,
Yeah.
to that. So you actually may want no GPS for that, and you just clock in. They're like starting
Yeah.
their route, and they clock in and they go. It's hard for you to test, like, did they clock in close enough to the start of their route? That's just going to be a really tough
Yeah,
scenario.
it's not necessarily like real time their
kind of a
location.
moving-
It's like spatial distances between something that's in the same entity, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. There are some things that we're looking at, not to get off track, but where you can clock into an activity.
Okay.
So the activity may be, you know, visit customer X, and so then they clock into that activity, and then
Yeah.
the next activity is visit customer Y, and then they're clocking in it. They're just
Yeah.
confirming that they're there,
Yeah.
or they did it. And because I've got a postal company that wants them clocking, essentially, I call it clocking in. They want to say, I'm starting to sort the mail, and then I'm done sorting the mail, and now I'm going to go deliver the mail.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm starting delivering the mail, and I'm done delivering the mail. So it's a nuance to time and attendance, but it's probably a little closer to what
No, that's
you're talking
interesting.
about.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Last, saving the best for last.
Thank you. Currently, we are using a feature in StaffHub where we can import a spreadsheet for
Yep.
the scheduling. Will that be carried forward?
Yes.
Easy.
Easy by November?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Even October. Okay. Okay, guys, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.